When a person chooses to live in the Holy Spirit, they are no longer bound by the limited reasoning of the human mind or the heavy weight of earthly struggles. They step into a higher dimension where divine strategies are revealed, strategies that are not born of human intellect, but flow from the wisdom of God Himself. These strategies are the guiding lights for life's battles, the hidden keys that unlock doors to victory, and the unshakable foundations on which abundance and peace are built. To understand that divine strategies come through the Spirit and not through human reasoning is to embrace the greatest secret of abundant life. Human reasoning, though necessary for daily function, is limited by perception, past experiences, fears and doubts. It is confined to what the eyes see, what the ears hear, and what the mind can logically analyze. But life is far more complex and expansive than what human logic can contain. Reasoning tries to calculate the future based on what is seen in the present, but the Spirit sees the end from the beginning, the hidden from the visible, the eternal from the temporary. This is why divine strategies are always superior to human strategies. When a person lives in the Spirit, they are not trapped in the smallness of their own understanding. They are connected to the limitless wisdom of God. There are countless moments in life where human logic says, there is no way forward. A bank account may say, there is not enough. A doctor's report may say, there is no hope. A relationship may look too broken to mend. Reason will always measure resources and circumstances against visible evidence, but the Spirit sees what cannot yet be seen. Divine strategies often come in ways that the natural mind would reject. When reason says to panic, the Spirit says to trust. When reason says to give up, the Spirit says to persevere. When reason says to calculate, the Spirit says to surrender. This is the paradox of spiritual wisdom. It defies the natural order, but always produces fruit. Consider how often people have tried to solve problems by sheer force of mind. Sleepless nights, endless worry, constant calculations, yet peace never comes, and the problem often deepens. That is because reasoning without Spirit leads to confusion. The mind is like a maze, always circling the same thoughts, replaying scenarios, and imagining worst outcomes, but the Spirit provides clarity. A single whisper from God can accomplish more than 1,000 hours of worry. A divine idea can turn around a situation that looked impossible. That is why those who live in the Spirit are called wise, not because they know everything, but because they are connected to the One who knows everything. Human reasoning tends to focus on control. It demands answers, steps, guarantees, and visible evidence before moving forward. But divine strategy requires trust. Trust means stepping even when you do not see the whole staircase, speaking life when everything looks dead, believing in abundance when lack surrounds you. The Spirit's strategies do not always explain themselves up front, but they always prove themselves in time. Faith acts first, and understanding follows later. The natural mind wants understanding before action, but the Spirit teaches action in trust, which then produces understanding. Think of how divine strategies work in daily life. A person might be struggling financially, and logic tells them to hold back, to cling tightly to what little they have. But the Spirit may lead them to give, to bless someone else, to sow into another's life. Human reasoning says this makes no sense. How can giving bring increase? Yet in the Spirit's economy, giving creates multiplication. Another person may be in conflict with someone, and human reasoning says to fight back, to prove their point, to win the argument. But the Spirit may instruct them to forgive, to release, to stay silent. Reasoning calls this weakness, But forgiveness opens the door to peace, restoration, and freedom. Every major breakthrough in life comes not through human logic, but through spirit-led strategy. History, testimony, and scripture show again and again that those who followed divine instruction saw miracles, while those who relied on their own strength faced failure. Divine strategies may come as quiet impressions, as bold inspirations, or as clear inner convictions. They do not shout or push. They whisper and lead. Human reasoning often resists them because they cannot be proven on paper. But that is where faith comes in. The Spirit calls you to trust the unseen, because the unseen shapes the seen. When you depend on reasoning alone, your life is limited to your own capacity. But when you depend on divine strategy, your life is expanded by God's capacity. The Spirit has access to doors you cannot see, connections you cannot plan, opportunities you cannot manufacture, and outcomes you cannot predict. This is why people who live in the Spirit often appear to walk in favor and miracles. They are not relying on their own calculations, but on heavenly blueprints. Their results are disproportionate to their effort, because the Spirit multiplies what they do. Living by reasoning alone produces fear, because reasoning always encounters limits. At some point the calculations say, there is not enough time, not enough money, not enough strength. But living by Spirit produces confidence, because divine strategies bypass limits. The Spirit does not need what you think you must have to create a breakthrough. A small resource in God's hand becomes more than enough. An impossible situation becomes the ground for a miracle. Divine strategies transform lack into abundance, impossibility into testimony, and weakness into strength. This does not mean that reasoning is useless. The mind is a gift, and planning, thinking, and analyzing are necessary. But when the mind tries to lead without Spirit, it becomes a tyrant instead of a servant. The proper order is Spirit first, mind second. The Spirit reveals the strategy, and the mind then helps execute it. But if the mind tries to replace the Spirit, frustration, exhaustion, and failure follow. The most successful lives are those where reasoning is surrendered to Spirit, where plans are flexible to divine direction, where logic serves faith instead of replacing it. Imagine living each day with the assurance that you are guided by wisdom beyond your own. You no longer have to carry the burden of figuring everything out. You no longer need to depend on limited resources or struggle with endless doubts. Instead, you live in the flow of Spirit, where strategies come exactly when needed, solutions arrive at the right time, ideas spark in the right moment, doors open at the right season. This is the life of abundance and peace, not because you control everything, but because you are led by the one who does. Divine strategies often appear unusual or even foolish to the natural mind, because they operate on principles that transcend logic. When a person leans only on human reasoning, they evaluate everything through the lens of probability, past experiences, or visible evidence. But the Spirit introduces instructions and insights that bypass all of that. Because the wisdom of God is not bound by what has happened before or what seems possible in the moment. What appears irrational in the natural often becomes the very doorway to supernatural outcomes. This is why those who live in the Spirit must be willing to embrace what looks unusual and be obedient to divine prompting, even when it does not make sense at first. When divine strategies come, they may not fit the expectations of those around you. People may laugh, criticize, or dismiss the action as foolish. Yet what others mock often carries the seed of your breakthrough. The natural mind is conditioned to believe only what can be seen or explained, but the Spirit speaks of realities that are hidden, realities that only faith can bring forth. For example, being instructed to take a small step that seems insignificant may be the key to unlocking a chain of blessings. Speaking words of faith into an empty situation may look strange to others, but those words release power into the unseen realm. The Spirit works in ways that bypass common sense, but always produce uncommon results. The unusual nature of divine strategies is intentional, because it ensures that no one can boast in their own strength. If the outcome could be explained purely by logic, then people would attribute it to their skill, their intellect, or their resources. But when the outcome defies logic, it becomes clear that it was orchestrated by God. Divine strategies strip away human pride and reveal divine glory. They remind us that we are not meant to be the source of our own supply, but the recipients of God's infinite wisdom. Trusting in what seems unusual is an act of humility, a way of saying, I do not need to understand everything. I simply need to obey the one who does. Think of how unusual strategies often lead to extraordinary results. A person struggling with financial lack may be instructed by the Spirit to give rather than to hoard. Logic says, to save every penny, to clutch tightly to what little is left. Yet the Spirit may whisper, release it, and you will see increase. To the natural mind, this looks like foolishness, but obedience to that unusual instruction aligns with divine law, where giving leads to receiving, and sowing produces harvest. Another example is forgiveness. Human reasoning says to hold on to grudges, to make sure the offender pays for what they have done. But the Spirit says to forgive, to release, to let go. This seems irrational, almost unfair, but it is through forgiveness that the heart is healed, relationships are restored, and peace flows in. Unusual strategies often come when everything looks impossible. In those moments, the Spirit will not always give you a plan that makes logical sense, because logic cannot solve what is beyond logic. Instead, you may be led to praise when you feel like complaining, to rest when you feel like striving, to speak life when you feel surrounded by death. These are not the reactions the world expects, but they are the responses that shift atmosphere. Praise in the middle of difficulty confuses the enemy and strengthens the soul. Rest in the middle of chaos renews the mind and opens space for divine intervention. Speaking life in the midst of despair creates a pathway for hope to manifest. What makes these strategies powerful is not that they follow a formula, but that they are Spirit-breathed. The Spirit knows exactly what is needed in each unique moment. One time, the answer may be to act boldly. Another time, it may be to wait silently. One time, it may be to step forward with courage. Another time, it may be to remain still. The natural mind prefers predictable patterns, but the Spirit offers living guidance, tailored for the situation at hand. Obedience to these unusual instructions brings about results that no human calculation could achieve. To embrace divine strategies, a person must release the need for control. The mind craves certainty, but faith thrives in surrender. When you decide to trust what feels unusual, you declare that your confidence is not in your ability to figure everything out, but in the Spirit's ability to lead you correctly. This requires sensitivity and willingness. It requires quieting the noise of fear, pride, and impatience, so that the still small voice of God can be heard clearly. Many people miss divine strategies because they dismiss them as too simple, too strange, or too impractical. But those who recognize the value of unusual instructions discover that within them lies supernatural power. Another reason divine strategies often seem unusual is because they deal not only with external circumstances, but also with internal transformation. When the Spirit instructs you to take an action that makes no sense, it is often designed to stretch your faith, to break limitations in your mind, and to expand your capacity to trust. The action itself may look small or insignificant, but it does something powerful within you. It trains your heart to depend on God rather than on appearances. It teaches you to live from the unseen instead of being trapped by the seen. What looks like foolishness to the world becomes training for greater faith. Consider how peace itself can be a divine strategy. In a culture that tells you to fight, argue, and defend yourself at all costs, choosing peace may look unusual. Yet peace disarms hostility, creates space for clarity, and allows divine justice to flow. Or think of how silence can be a strategy. While human reasoning insists on defending and proving yourself, the Spirit may instruct you to stay silent and let truth speak for itself. Silence may look weak, but it often exposes lies and reveals strength. These are examples of how unusual strategies shift outcomes in ways human logic could never predict. The fruit of unusual obedience is always undeniable. What begins as an odd or counterintuitive action becomes the seed of breakthrough. The person who gave when it made no sense finds themselves walking in provision. The one who forgave instead of retaliating finds freedom in their soul. The one who spoke faith into a barren situation sees life blossom. These outcomes make it clear that divine wisdom is higher than human wisdom, and that what appears foolish to the world is often the very wisdom of God. When you live in the Spirit, you stop fearing unusual instructions. Instead of resisting them, you learn to lean into them, to recognize that what looks strange may be the very thing that unlocks your miracle. This posture of trust and obedience transforms your entire life. You no longer depend on formulas, but on relationship with the Spirit. You no longer cling to control, but walk in surrender. And in that surrender, you experience supernatural strategies that lead to outcomes far beyond anything the natural mind could ever produce. True strength is not measured by physical power, intellectual sharpness, or social influence, but by the quiet courage to surrender fully to the guidance of the Spirit. The world often equates strength with dominance, control, and the ability to push through obstacles by sheer force. Yet divine strength operates differently. It is found in stillness, in trust, and in yielding. It is in letting go of the constant need to figure everything out, manipulate outcomes, and carry burdens alone. Strength, in the divine sense, is the ability to rest in the wisdom of the Spirit, knowing that every detail of life is being orchestrated with precision and care. This strength may not be loud or visible, but it is unshakable, because it is anchored in God and not in human effort. When a person lives surrendered, they no longer strive in the way the world demands. They cease to rely on frantic activity and instead move in alignment with divine timing. This kind of surrender does not mean passivity or laziness. It means yielding one's own agenda to the higher wisdom of the Spirit. It is saying, "Not my will, but yours," and trusting that this higher will is always for good. The paradox is that what looks like weakness to others is actually the deepest strength. To resist reacting in anger, to remain calm under pressure, to choose faith over fear, these are not the actions of a weak soul, but of a spirit strengthened by surrender. The strength of surrender is also evident in how it brings peace in the midst of storms. Most people lose their balance when chaos arises because they are trying to hold everything together on their own. They panic, they worry, they attempt to control outcomes beyond their reach. But the one who has surrendered to the Spirit does not collapse under pressure. They may still feel the weight of the storm, but deep within, there is an unmovable anchor. They know that no storm is greater than the one guiding them, and this awareness fills them with calm confidence. Peace in chaos is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of divine strength working within. Surrendered strength is also the ability to release control of people and circumstances. Often, the greatest battles are not with external enemies, but with the desire to make others act the way we want, or to force life to unfold according to our plans. This battle drains energy and steals joy. True strength lets go of this illusion of control and trusts that the Spirit is capable of handling what we cannot. This surrender frees the heart from anxiety and bitterness and allows love, patience, and compassion to flow instead. A surrendered soul is not fragile. It is resilient because it does not need to bend life into its own shape. It trusts the shaping power of God. Strength in surrender also manifests in the ability to wait without despair. Waiting is one of the hardest lessons because the mind craves immediate answers and visible progress. Yet many of life's breakthroughs come through seasons of waiting, and it takes strength to endure them with faith. A surrendered heart does not waste the waiting with complaints or doubt. Instead, it leans into the Spirit, finding strength in hope and peace in patience. This kind of waiting is active, filled with prayer, faith, and expectancy. While others may grow weary and give up, the surrendered soul keeps standing because their strength is not in themselves, but in the one who cannot fail. The surrendered life also transforms weakness into strength. Human weakness is inevitable. Everyone faces fear, doubt, and moments of inadequacy. But surrender takes those very weaknesses and places them in the hands of the Spirit, who turns them into instruments of growth. Fear becomes an opportunity to develop courage. Doubt becomes an invitation to deeper faith. Inadequacy becomes the ground where divine sufficiency is revealed. Instead of being crushed by weakness, the surrendered person allows it to be a channel through which divine strength flows. This is why surrender is never defeat. It is the key to being strengthened beyond human limits. Another dimension of surrendered strength is freedom from the opinions of others. Many people waste their strength trying to impress, compete, or prove themselves to the world. This constant striving drains the soul and creates insecurity. But surrender sets a person free from this exhausting cycle. When you live surrendered to the Spirit, your worth is no longer tied to approval or comparison. You draw strength from identity in God, not from external validation. This inner confidence makes you unshakable, because you no longer rise and fall based on what others think. That is strength, quiet, resilient, and unmovable. Surrender also empowers forgiveness, which requires immense strength. Holding on to anger or resentment may feel like strength, but it actually weakens the soul, chaining it to bitterness. Forgiveness, on the other hand, looks like weakness to those who equate strength with revenge or dominance. Yet it takes more strength to release an offense than to cling to it. Forgiveness is a divine act of surrender, surrendering your right to hold judgment and trusting the Spirit to bring justice in the right way and time. In forgiving, you demonstrate true strength, because you refuse to be enslaved by the wounds of others. One of the greatest fruits of surrendered strength is joy. When people try to control everything, they are constantly weighed down with pressure. But surrender lightens the load, and in that lightness, joy naturally arises. Joy is not naive denial of life's difficulties. It is strength that flows from trusting the Spirit's care. A joyful heart can endure difficulties without breaking, can face disappointments without despairing, and can walk through darkness without losing hope. This joy is a sign of strength that no human effort can manufacture, because it is rooted in surrender. Surrender is also strength, because it gives clarity. A mind cluttered with fear, control, and worry cannot think clearly. But when those burdens are surrendered, the Spirit provides wisdom and insight. Decisions become easier because they are guided, not forced. Discernment sharpens because the heart is not clouded by fear. The surrendered soul can see beyond the surface, perceive hidden opportunities, and act with confidence. This clarity itself is a form of strength, because it keeps life aligned with truth instead of confusion. The strength of surrender lies in its ability to align human weakness with divine power. The Spirit does not require you to be perfect, flawless, or endlessly strong in yourself. The Spirit asks only for surrender, because in surrender, power flows unhindered. The more you yield, the stronger you become, not with the fragile strength of ego or willpower, but with the enduring strength of divine presence. What the world calls weakness, yielding, forgiving, waiting, releasing, is in fact the greatest power, because it taps into a source far beyond human ability. Divine strategies often operate in ways that defy human logic, and one of the most powerful strategies is waiting on divine timing. In a culture where everything is measured by speed, productivity, and immediate results, the idea of waiting is often seen as weakness, inefficiency, or even failure. Yet in the Spirit's realm, waiting is not passive. It is an active alignment with higher wisdom. Waiting is not about doing nothing, but about doing the right thing at the right time, under divine guidance. The seasons of waiting are often the most critical moments in life, because they prepare, refine, and strengthen a person for the abundance that lies ahead. When someone rushes ahead of divine timing, they may achieve temporary success, but it will not have the stability or depth of blessings that flow in alignment with the Spirit. Human impatience often leads to choices that bring regret, unnecessary pain, or missed opportunities. But when a person learns to rest in the Spirit's timing, they discover that delays are not denials. They are orchestrated pauses filled with purpose. Every apparent delay carries a hidden lesson. Every pause carries unseen preparation. And every waiting season is a training ground for what is coming. The Spirit sees the full picture, beyond what human eyes can grasp. And waiting is the way we demonstrate trust in that higher vision. Waiting on divine timing also cultivates humility. It reminds us that we are not the ultimate directors of life. This humility does not diminish us, but strengthens us, because it frees us from the exhausting illusion of control. It allows us to step back and acknowledge that we are part of a greater plan, a plan that unfolds with perfection even when it does not match our expectations. The humble soul understands that the timing of the Spirit is never late, never early, but always precise. By surrendering to this rhythm, life becomes more harmonious, because it flows in step with divine order rather than human anxiety. Patience is the key virtue that grows during waiting. And patience is not simply the ability to endure delay. It is the ability to remain hopeful, peaceful, and steadfast in faith during the delay. Patience means choosing not to let anxiety dictate decisions, not to let fear rob joy, and not to let circumstances shake trust. It is a divine strength that comes from knowing that the Spirit's promises are sure, even if they take time to manifest. Patience is not passive resignation. It is active faith that holds on to vision, expectation, and gratitude even when the evidence is not yet visible. One of the greatest challenges of waiting is resisting the temptation to compare. When others appear to be moving forward faster, achieving more, or receiving blessings you long for, it can feel like you are being left behind. But waiting on divine timing means trusting that your path is uniquely designed. Comparison steals peace because it distracts from the specific journey the Spirit has crafted for you. Each life unfolds according to a divine blueprint, and rushing to keep pace with others is like forcing a seed to sprout before its appointed season. It only weakens growth. True strength in waiting is the ability to rejoice for others while remaining confident that your time will come in fullness. Waiting also deepens intimacy with the Spirit. In moments of waiting, distractions are stripped away, and the soul has an opportunity to lean more deeply into prayer, reflection, and communion. When life is moving quickly, it is easy to rely on one's own energy and overlook the gentle guidance of the Spirit. But in waiting seasons, you are invited to listen more closely, to quiet the noise, and to discern whispers of guidance that might otherwise be missed. Many of the greatest revelations, insights, and breakthroughs are born in stillness, not in hurried striving. Another profound truth is that waiting reshapes desires. Often, people believe they know exactly what they want, but time has a way of refining those desires. What once seemed urgent or essential may, after a season of waiting, lose its grip, revealing that it was never truly aligned with the Spirit's plan. At the same time, deeper, truer desires may emerge, desires that are more in harmony with purpose. Waiting acts as a filter, purifying motives and aligning longings with divine intention. This ensures that when blessings come, they not only satisfy temporarily, but bring lasting fulfillment. Waiting also cultivates gratitude. When something arrives too quickly, it is easy to take it for granted. But when a blessing is preceded by waiting, it carries weight and value that enriches the soul. Gratitude flows more deeply because the heart remembers the seasons of longing, trusting, and persevering. In this way, waiting magnifies joy when fulfillment finally arrives. The blessing is not only in what is received, but in the transformation of character and perspective that happen during the wait. Divine timing also protects. Sometimes, the Spirit withholds something not because it is wrong, but because receiving it too soon would do harm. A child cannot be trusted with responsibilities meant for adults, not because those responsibilities are bad, but because the timing is wrong. Similarly, blessings withheld are often blessings preserved for the right moment, when maturity, wisdom, and strength are ready to handle them. Waiting shields us from unnecessary harm and ensures that when we step into opportunity, we do so fully prepared. In seasons of waiting, faith is tested and strengthened. Faith that only endures in easy times is shallow. True faith is forged in the tension between promise and manifestation. It is strengthened when circumstances contradict hope, yet hope remains. It grows when prayers seem unanswered, yet the heart continues to believe. Waiting sharpens faith into something unshakable, because it teaches reliance, not on visible evidence, but on invisible truth. This deepened faith becomes a foundation for all of life, enabling us to face future challenges with greater courage. A surrendered approach to waiting also transforms time itself. Instead of seeing waiting as wasted time, it becomes preparation time. The Spirit uses waiting seasons to equip, train, and shape the soul. Skills are developed, wisdom is gained, resilience is built, all of which will be needed for what is ahead. What looks like delay is often acceleration in disguise, because it ensures that when the door opens, you are fully ready to walk through it with confidence and strength. Waiting also allows divine connections to align. Life's blessings often depend not only on our readiness, but on the readiness of others. Sometimes we wait because the people we are meant to meet, work with, or bless are themselves being prepared. Timing is not only about personal readiness, but about the orchestration of countless moving pieces. When all align under divine wisdom, the outcome is far greater than anything we could have forced prematurely. Waiting on divine timing teaches trust at the deepest level. It asks us to let go of the illusion that we know best and to embrace the mystery of a higher plan. This trust is not always easy, but it is always rewarded. When the Spirit moves, it often happens suddenly, after long waiting. What once seemed delayed suddenly appears, and in that moment, all the waiting makes sense. The strength gained, the wisdom cultivated, the intimacy with the Spirit deepened, all of it reveals why waiting was essential. Divine timing is never wasted. It is perfect, precise, and overflowing with purpose. Divine strategies are never random, they are precise, purposeful, and rooted in the deep awareness that every life is guided by a higher wisdom that knows the end from the beginning. One of the most powerful strategies for living in the Spirit is aligning thoughts with the higher mind. The thoughts a person entertains are not merely fleeting ideas or private musings. They are seeds planted into the soil of reality. What begins as a simple thought eventually grows into habits, actions, circumstances, and even destiny. The human mind, left unguarded, can wander into worry, fear, and negativity, which become self-fulfilling prophecies. But when the mind is disciplined and deliberately aligned with divine truth, it becomes a powerful channel through which abundance, peace, and joy flow naturally. Alignment of thought begins with awareness. Many people are unaware of the patterns that dominate their inner dialogue. They repeat stories of lack, defeat, or fear without realizing that those very stories are shaping their experiences. When one chooses to live in the Spirit, awareness is sharpened, and the person begins to notice not only what they think, but how those thoughts affect their emotions, decisions, and atmosphere. Awareness is the first step because it shines light on the subconscious patterns that may be working against divine order. Once awareness is cultivated, the next step is surrender. Aligning thoughts with divine truth is not about willpower alone. It is about yielding to a higher frequency of wisdom that transcends human limitation. This surrender is not weakness but strength, because it allows the Spirit to infuse the mind with clarity, creativity, and peace. A surrendered mind is a liberated mind, one no longer shackled by the fears of the past or the anxieties of the future. Instead, it is anchored in the present, attuned to the whispers of divine guidance that reveal new possibilities. One of the greatest obstacles to alignment is fear. Fear clouds vision, distorts perspective, and drains courage. It is the opposite of faith, and it often masquerades as caution or realism. But fear is rarely rooted in truth. It is usually born from distorted imagination or past wounds. When one learns to align with divine thought, fear is gradually replaced by faith. Faith is not blind optimism, but trust in the reality of unseen order. Faith allows the mind to hold on to possibility even when circumstances appear contrary. A faith-filled thought is like a light in darkness, cutting through fear and making way for divine solution. Another aspect of alignment is speaking in harmony with thought. The words people speak are extensions of their thoughts, and they carry creative power. A person cannot think one way and speak another without creating conflict in their inner and outer worlds. When thoughts are aligned with divine truth, speech naturally follows. Affirmations of abundance, peace, healing, and joy are not empty phrases. They are declarations of alignment that resonate with the unseen realm and call forth what is aligned with truth. Each word becomes a seed carrying life, and when consistently spoken, those seeds bear fruit in experience. Aligning thoughts also requires discipline. The mind, like any field, must be cultivated. Weeds of negativity, doubt, or bitterness will try to grow, but discipline is the practice of pulling them out before they take root. Discipline does not mean repression. It means replacing destructive thoughts with constructive ones. It means redirecting attention from fear to promise, from lack to supply, from despair to hope. This discipline is not achieved overnight, but is built through daily practice, much like training a muscle. Over time, the mind becomes more naturally attuned to divine truth, making alignment less of a struggle and more of a natural flow. Gratitude is another powerful strategy in alignment. Gratitude shifts thought from scarcity to sufficiency. It is the recognition of blessings already present, which opens the heart and mind to receive more. A grateful thought is magnetic. It attracts abundance because it vibrates in harmony with divine supply. Even in seasons of waiting or challenge, choosing gratitude aligns thought with higher truth, reminding the soul that divine provision is always present, even if not immediately visible. Gratitude keeps the mind elevated above fear and doubt, ensuring alignment with the higher mind is maintained. One of the most overlooked aspects of aligning thoughts with the spirit is imagination. Imagination is not mere fantasy. It is a preview of coming realities. The spirit often communicates through vision, dreams, and inspired ideas, but many dismiss imagination as wishful thinking. When thoughts are aligned with divine wisdom, imagination becomes a sacred tool. It allows the mind to see beyond current circumstances, to envision possibilities that align with divine promise, and to hold that vision until it becomes reality. Imagination, when surrendered to the spirit, is a powerful instrument of creation. Alignment also involves forgiveness. Resentment and bitterness are heavy weights that anchor the mind in the past. They distort thought, coloring perceptions and blocking the flow of divine wisdom. Forgiveness is not excusing wrong. It is releasing oneself from the prison of negative thought patterns. When forgiveness is practiced, the mind is freed to align fully with divine truth, which always carries peace, freedom, and abundance. Without forgiveness, alignment is incomplete, because negativity cannot coexist with the purity of divine wisdom. Another layer of alignment is stillness. The mind, when restless, filled with distractions and constant noise, cannot easily align with higher truth. Stillness creates space for clarity. In stillness, the racing thoughts settle, and the deeper wisdom of the spirit emerges. This stillness can be found in prayer, meditation, reflection, or simply in quiet moments of surrender. It is not the absence of thought, but the centering of thought in divine presence. Stillness allows the mind to tune into higher frequencies, much like adjusting a radio dial until the signal becomes clear. Practical strategies also help reinforce alignment. Writing down affirmations, journaling insights, practicing daily declarations of faith, surrounding oneself with uplifting environments and people, all these reinforce the mind's alignment. Just as a garden thrives when watered and nourished, the mind thrives when consistently exposed to truth, beauty, and inspiration. Alignment is not a one-time event, but a lifestyle, a continuous choice to think in harmony with divine reality. The fruit of aligned thought is evident in every area of life. When thoughts are elevated, emotions follow. Peace, joy, and resilience replace anxiety, fear, and despair, actions also shift. As aligned thoughts inspire boldness, creativity, and solutions that were previously hidden, relationships improve because aligned thoughts produce patience, understanding, and compassion. Even physical health can be transformed as stress is replaced with calm, and the body responds to the renewal of the mind. Aligning thoughts with the higher mind is a divine strategy because it positions the soul to receive and create in harmony with truth. The mind is a gateway, and when it is filled with divine light, everything flowing through that gateway reflects abundance and order. To align is to live consciously, to choose truth over illusion, faith over fear, gratitude over lack, and vision over limitation. It is a continuous journey, but with each step, life becomes more abundant, more peaceful, and more reflective of divine wisdom. Trust is the foundation upon which every divine strategy is built. Without trust, even the most powerful guidance can be dismissed, doubted, or overlooked. To live in the Spirit is to cultivate a deep reliance upon divine timing, divine order, and divine provision, even when the visible evidence seems contrary. Trust requires stepping beyond the limited framework of human logic and surrendering to a higher intelligence that orchestrates life with perfect precision. It is not a passive state of waiting, but an active choice to rest in confidence, knowing that what has been promised will unfold in the right way, at the right time. Trust begins with a recognition that human control is limited. People often believe they can manage every outcome, predict every turn, or secure every provision by sheer effort. While discipline and responsibility are important, control is an illusion. Life is filled with uncertainties that cannot be mastered by human calculation alone. Divine strategies, however, account for the unknowns, the hidden connections, and the unseen pathways. Trust is the bridge that allows a person to walk forward even when the entire path is not visible. Just as a traveler continues to walk by the light of a lamp that only illuminates a few steps ahead, trust in the Spirit enables one to move forward with confidence even when the bigger picture is hidden. One of the greatest barriers to trust is impatience. The human heart often desires immediate results, forgetting that divine timing is never rushed nor delayed. Seasons exist for a reason, and every unfolding has its appointed moment. Impatience leads to frustration, and frustration leads to rash decisions that can derail divine order. Trust, however, teaches the discipline of patience. It assures the heart that delay is not denial, and waiting is not wasting time. In fact, waiting with trust is often the very process that prepares the person for the blessing they are about to receive. Without trust, waiting becomes torment, but with trust, waiting becomes preparation. Fear also challenges trust. Fear whispers that things will not work out, that provision will not come, that promises will fail. It magnifies uncertainty and breeds anxiety. But trust quiets fear by reminding the heart that divine order has never failed, and never will. History, both personal and universal, bears witness to countless moments where provision appeared at the last moment, where doors opened just when they seemed permanently shut, where protection arrived in the midst of danger. Remembering these testimonies strengthens trust. Each recollection becomes a pillar of confidence that if divine order carried one through before, it will surely do so again. Another dimension of trust is releasing the need to understand everything. Human minds crave explanations and certainty, but divine wisdom often works in ways that transcend logic. There are seasons when the reason behind a delay, a detour, or even a loss may not be revealed immediately. Trust allows the heart to rest without demanding answers. It chooses to believe that unseen purposes are being fulfilled, even if clarity has not yet come. This is one of the most difficult aspects of trust, resting without understanding. But it is also one of the most rewarding. In time, what once seemed confusing often reveals itself as part of a larger plan that makes perfect sense in retrospect. Trust also involves letting go of outcomes. Many people trust as long as the answer appears the way they imagine it should. But true trust does not dictate the form of the answer. It leaves room for surprises, for unexpected avenues, for blessings that arrive in ways unimagined. Sometimes what is longed for is too small compared to what the Spirit intends to give. By clinging too tightly to a specific outcome, one may miss the greater blessing. Trust says, I know I will be provided for, but I release the how and when into divine hands. This openness creates space for miracles. Daily practice strengthens trust. It is not cultivated in a single moment, but through repeated choices to lean on the Spirit rather than self. Small acts of trust build the muscle for larger challenges. Trusting in little matters, like guidance for a simple decision or provision for a daily need, prepares the heart for greater moments where faith is required in larger areas of life. Over time, trust becomes second nature, not because life is without challenges, but because the heart becomes trained to rely on divine wisdom as the first response, rather than the last resort. Gratitude fuels trust. By focusing on blessings already received, the heart is reminded that provision is ongoing. Trust weakens when attention is fixed on lack, but it grows when attention is fixed on abundance. Gratitude also shifts perspective, allowing one to see even challenges as opportunities in disguise. What may feel like a setback may actually be redirection. Trust, combined with gratitude, transforms perception so that every experience is viewed as part of the unfolding plan of divine wisdom. Trust is not blind naivety. It is rooted in experience. The Spirit has proven faithful across generations and continues to do so daily. When one truly reflects, countless examples of divine orchestration can be found. Moments of protection, opportunities that appeared unexpectedly, relationships that arrived at the perfect time, or solutions that surfaced when options seemed exhausted. These personal testimonies anchor trust, making it more than theory. It becomes lived reality. Another layer of trust is rest. Many people exhaust themselves with constant striving, trying to force outcomes or manipulate situations. Trust invites rest, not in laziness, but in calm assurance. Resting does not mean inactivity. It means working from peace rather than anxiety. It means taking action without desperation, knowing that the Spirit blesses each step. Restful trust is powerful because it radiates calm, influencing not only the individual, but those around them. A heart at rest inspires confidence in others and demonstrates the strength of divine reliance. Trust also requires courage. It is not always easy to walk away from what is familiar or to step into the unknown, but trust demands it. Divine strategies often require leaving comfort zones, letting go of old patterns, or embracing new paths that seem uncertain. Courage fueled by trust empowers a person to take these leaps. Though fear may whisper at the edge, trust speaks louder, assuring that every step into the unknown is a step into divine provision. The fruit of trust is peace. When trust is genuine, anxiety diminishes, and a steady calm pervades the soul. Decisions become clearer, relationships flow more harmoniously, and challenges are faced with resilience. This peace is not based on circumstances, but on alignment with divine order. It is a peace that sustains even when storms rage, because it rests not in external stability, but in internal assurance. Trust is both a choice and a journey. It is chosen daily, sometimes moment by moment, in the face of doubt, fear, or delay. Yet with each choice, it grows stronger, more unshakable. Trust transforms life from a struggle of constant striving into a flow of grace-filled living. It shifts perspective from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith, from control to surrender. And in this place of trust, one discovers that the divine strategy for life is never to withhold, but always to bless, never to destroy, but always to build, never to abandon, but always to guide. Faith is the invisible bridge that carries a person from the visible world of limitation into the unseen realm of divine possibilities. When living in the Spirit, faith becomes the key that unlocks strategies that human wisdom cannot comprehend. It is not merely a passive belief or a vague hope, but a confident expectation that the unseen reality is more enduring than what is currently visible. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It affirms that what exists in the spiritual realm will manifest in the physical when aligned with divine order. Without faith, the heart remains bound by fear, doubt, and human reasoning. But with faith, the impossible becomes possible, and doors swing open where none seemed to exist. Faith begins with thought. The mind is the soil in which faith seeds are planted. When one allows divine promises to saturate their thoughts, those promises begin to take root, shaping perception and expectation. Thoughts aligned with spirit create inner pictures of abundance, healing, peace, and success. These pictures strengthen faith by providing an anchor for the imagination. The inner world, when cultivated with faith-filled thoughts, becomes a fertile ground where divine strategies unfold naturally. By contrast, thoughts rooted in fear or doubt block spiritual flow, making it harder for divine provision to manifest. Thus, cultivating faith requires guarding the mind and continually feeding it with truth, light, and hope. Faith is also expressed in words. Words carry power, and when spoken with conviction, they act as containers of faith. Declarations such as "I am guided," "I am provided for," or "I walk in divine favor," are not empty affirmations, but spiritual decrees that align the speaker with divine reality. Speaking faith-filled words releases spiritual energy into situations, shifting circumstances in ways unseen at first, but undeniable over time. On the other hand, words of fear or complaint can sabotage faith by reinforcing doubt. Faith grows stronger when the tongue becomes an instrument of agreement with divine order. Each spoken word becomes a brick in the bridge of faith, carrying one forward into the abundant life promised by Spirit. Action is another essential dimension of faith. True faith is not idle or passive. It moves forward in expectation, even before visible evidence appears. A person who walks in faith prepares as though the blessing has already arrived. They act in alignment with their belief, planting seeds, taking steps, and positioning themselves for the manifestation they trust is coming. For example, one who believes provision will come may begin preparing space for it or organizing life in readiness for increase. This action is not presumption, it is alignment. Faith without works is incomplete, but faith with action creates momentum that draws the unseen into the seen. Faith also requires persistence. Life often presents delays or apparent obstacles, but these are not signs of denial. They are invitations to deepen trust and strengthen faith. Many give up too soon, abandoning their faith just before breakthrough arrives. Persistence keeps pressing forward, confident that what is unseen is on its way. Faith is not shaken by temporary setbacks, because it understands that divine timing governs all things. Just as a seed takes time to sprout, grow, and bear fruit, faith requires endurance. The harvest always comes for those who refuse to abandon their confidence. Another aspect of faith is courage. It takes courage to believe when circumstances contradict the promise. It takes courage to step out when no visible support seems present. Faith also transforms perception. When the eyes of faith are open, one begins to see beyond obstacles. Instead of viewing a challenge as a wall, faith sees it as a doorway to growth. Instead of perceiving lack as permanent, faith sees it as an opportunity for divine provision to manifest. This shift in perception changes everything, because how one sees determines how one responds. Faith-filled vision allows a person to live above circumstances rather than beneath them. It turns deserts into gardens in the mind long before physical evidence appears. Eventually, the external world catches up to the vision held within. Community plays a role in strengthening faith as well. Surrounding oneself with voices of encouragement, testimonies of breakthrough, and examples of victory reinforces belief. Faith grows in environments where it is nurtured and shared. Conversely, environments of negativity, doubt, or fear can drain faith. Choosing carefully what voices to allow into one's heart is essential for maintaining strong faith. Testimonies are especially powerful because they remind the heart that if divine order worked for one, it will surely work again. Hearing stories of provision, healing, and guidance makes faith more tangible and ends the will to persist. Faith often requires letting go of control. Human nature desires certainty, guarantees, and full clarity before stepping forward. But faith thrives in surrender. It does not demand to know every detail. It simply trusts the outcome will align with divine will. This surrender is not weakness but strength. It frees the heart from anxiety and creates space for spirit to move in ways far beyond human imagination. When control is released, faith flows more freely, unblocked by the resistance of self-reliance. Another truth about faith is that it is contagious. When a person demonstrates bold faith, others are inspired to believe more deeply themselves. One person's testimony of faith can ignite belief in an entire community. This ripple effect shows that faith not only transforms individual lives, but also has the power to shift collective atmospheres. Faith attracts faith, and environments saturated with it become fertile ground for miracles. Faith also requires humility. It acknowledges that human ability has limits, but divine power does not. Humility bows before the unseen, declaring dependence on spirit rather than self. This posture of humility strengthens faith because it removes pride, which blocks flow. The humble heart is teachable, open, and ready to receive divine strategies without resistance. In humility, faith is not arrogant or boastful, but quietly confident, knowing that every blessing flows from a higher source. Faith connects the human spirit with divine reality. It bridges the gap between what is and what can be. It takes what is promised in the unseen and draws it into manifestation. It is the engine of transformation, the power that carries people from lack into abundance, from sickness into health, from confusion into clarity, from despair into joy. Faith does not deny reality, but affirms a greater reality. It does not ignore challenges, but speaks to them with authority, declaring that divine order is greater than any obstacle. Faith is not a one-time decision, but a lifestyle. It must be chosen daily, practiced continually, and nurtured intentionally. Over time, it becomes an unshakable force within the heart, unbothered by storms, unmoved by delays, unbroken by setbacks. Faith stands tall, not because of human willpower, but because it draws strength from the eternal. And as it grows, it reveals that every divine strategy rests on this truth. What is believed with unwavering faith in spirit eventually becomes visible in life. Peace is one of the greatest treasures of living in the spirit, and it is not the kind of peace that the world offers. Worldly peace is fragile, dependent on circumstances, agreements, or the absence of conflict. It can be disturbed the moment something shifts. A bill comes due, an argument arises, or unexpected news arrives. But the peace that flows from the Spirit is unshakable, rooted not in external stability, but in divine presence. It surpasses human understanding, meaning it cannot be explained by logic or reason. This peace becomes an anchor for the soul, steadying the heart even in the middle of storms. It is the calm in the chaos, the stillness in the noise, and the assurance in uncertainty. To cultivate this peace, one must learn the art of inner surrender. Many live in turmoil because they are constantly striving, worrying, or trying to control outcomes. The Spirit's peace invites a person to release those anxieties and place them into divine hands. This does not mean apathy or neglect of responsibilities, but rather trust that behind every detail is a higher order orchestrating events. When trust replaces worry, peace flows like a river. The heart that is surrendered does not need every answer or guarantee, for it knows that the unseen is working for its good. The paradox is that peace often comes not when problems disappear, but when the inner posture shifts from control to trust. Peace is also cultivated through mindfulness of presence. Living in the Spirit requires awareness that divine presence is here and now, not only in sacred spaces or moments of prayer, but in every breath, every conversation, and every task. When a person becomes aware of this abiding presence, ordinary life takes on sacred meaning. Stress begins to dissolve because the awareness of being carried by something greater outweighs the pressures of the moment. The Spirit's presence within is a wellspring of peace that never runs dry, but one must drink from it intentionally by quieting the mind, stilling the heart, and remembering that they are never alone. Another dimension of peace is forgiveness. Many carry inner turmoil not because of present circumstances, but because of wounds from the past. Unforgiveness becomes a poison that robs peace, keeping the heart in cycles of resentment, anger, or bitterness. The Spirit invites release, not as a denial of hurt, but as liberation from it. Forgiving does not condone wrongs, it simply frees the soul from chains. When forgiveness flows, peace rushes in, to fill the space once occupied by bitterness. It restores wholeness and allows joy to return. In this way, forgiveness is not only a gift to others, but a gift to oneself. Another truth about divine peace is that it is resilient in adversity. People often imagine peace as sitting beside still waters, but the Spirit's peace proves itself most in the storm. When challenges arise, when everything appears uncertain, when circumstances look overwhelming, peace is the quiet assurance that all is well. It whispers, "You are not abandoned. This too shall pass. What is meant for harm will turn for good." This unshakable calm does not come from denial of reality, but from alignment with divine reality, which is always greater than appearances. Such peace strengthens the heart to endure and remain steadfast until breakthrough comes. Peace is also tied to gratitude. A heart that practices thanksgiving finds it harder to be restless. Gratitude shifts focus from what is lacking to what is already present, from problems to blessings. When one begins to count blessings, Even in difficult times, the mind and spirit settle into calmness. Gratitude opens the door for more peace because it trains the eyes to see divine goodness in every situation. Even small acts of thankfulness, thanking for breath, for shelter, for the lessons and challenges can shift the atmosphere of the soul into peace. Stillness is another gateway to peace. In a world filled with noise, constant stimulation, and endless busyness, many have lost the ability to be still. Yet peace thrives in stillness. Setting aside moments of quiet reflection, prayer, or meditation creates space for the spirit to pour calm into the heart. In stillness, worries lose their grip, and clarity arises. The mind finds rest, and the soul drinks deeply from the well of peace. Without stillness, one can be pulled in every direction by distractions and anxieties, but with stillness, even the busiest life can carry an inner calm. Peace also involves alignment with purpose. Much of human restlessness comes from living out of sync with calling. When a person chases paths that are not theirs, inner turmoil results. But when aligned with the divine blueprint for life, peace flows naturally. This does not mean every path will be easy, but it does mean there is an inner assurance that one is where they are meant to be. Even challenges become bearable when one knows they are walking in purpose. Living authentically, following divine guidance, and honoring the unique path laid out brings a peace that cannot be shaken by comparison or doubt. A final aspect of peace is its role as a compass. Divine peace often signals the right path forward. When making decisions, one can sense peace or unrest within. Peace is the spirit's way of affirming alignment, while inner agitation signals caution or redirection. Learning to listen to this peace as guidance transforms decision-making. Instead of being tossed between fear and pressure, one can move confidently in the direction where peace abides. In this way, peace is not only a gift, but also a strategy, leading the way into choices that align with divine order. Peace is both a promise and a practice. It is promised as a fruit of the Spirit, a natural outflow of divine presence. But it must also be practiced through trust, gratitude, forgiveness, stillness, and alignment. It must be guarded, for the world will always present opportunities to steal it. Yet those who anchor themselves in the Spirit discover that peace is never truly lost. It is always present, waiting to be reclaimed. It is not a fleeting feeling, but a steady river flowing beneath life's surface, available at every moment to those who choose to drink from it. When peace reigns in the heart, life takes on a different rhythm. Stress no longer controls decisions. Fear no longer dictates choices, and circumstances no longer determine joy. Instead, there is a steady confidence, a calm assurance, and a quiet strength. Peace becomes the atmosphere of the soul, influencing every thought, word, and action. It radiates outward, touching others and transforming environments. In this way, divine peace is not just a personal blessing but a gift to the world, a living testimony that Spirit is present, alive, and working through those who allow peace to rule within. Joy is not merely an emotion that depends on circumstances, but a spiritual force that springs from the depth of divine presence. Many confuse happiness with joy, but happiness is fleeting, tied to external events, possessions, or relationships. When those things shift, happiness fades. Joy, however, is rooted in something eternal. It flows from the Spirit and remains constant even in the face of trials. It is a wellspring inside the heart that cannot be stolen by circumstances. This joy is not blind to suffering or denial of pain. It is the strength to endure, the light that shines in darkness, and the song that rises in the night season. Living in the Spirit means tapping into this unshakable joy and allowing it to sustain the soul no matter what life presents. Joy is both a fruit and a choice. As a fruit of the Spirit, it grows naturally when one is rooted in divine life. Just as an apple tree produces apples when nourished, the heart aligned with the Spirit produces joy. Yet it is also a choice, for one can resist joy by focusing only on fear, lack, or disappointment. Choosing joy means lifting one's gaze from problems to promises, from what is lost to what is eternal, from the temporary to the everlasting. The Spirit empowers this choice by constantly reminding the heart of truth, that nothing can separate from love, that all things are working together for good, and that even trials produce growth. With these reminders, joy becomes not a luxury but a necessity, a daily decision to live above circumstances rather than under them. Joy also strengthens. It is not a passive feeling, but an active power that sustains through challenges. When the heart is weary, joy revives it. When the body is weak, joy infuses energy. When the mind is clouded with worry, joy clears it with light. This is why joy is often described as strength. A person who guards their joy guards their power. Without joy, life becomes heavy and draining, but with joy, even the most difficult tasks can be carried with grace. The Spirit gives joy as a shield against despair, equipping the heart to endure with resilience. Another dimension of joy is gratitude. Joy and gratitude are inseparable companions. A thankful heart naturally overflows with joy, because it sees the goodness woven into life. Even in small things, the sunrise, a kind word, a breath of air, gratitude awakens joy. When gratitude is practiced intentionally, joy expands, creating a cycle of positivity that transforms perspective. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present, from lack to abundance. This shift opens the door for joy to flood in. In this way, gratitude becomes both a seed and a fuel for joy. Joy manifests most powerfully when rooted in purpose. A life lived without meaning easily falls into emptiness, but when one walks in alignment with divine calling, joy springs forth naturally, even in hard work. Even in sacrifice, purpose-driven living carries joy because the soul knows it is doing what it was created to do. This joy is not dependent on recognition or reward, but comes from the inner knowing that life is aligned with eternal design. Walking in purpose is walking in joy, and straying from purpose often results in restlessness and dissatisfaction. Another truth about joy is that it thrives in worship and praise. When the heart lifts its voice in song, gratitude or adoration, joy fills the atmosphere. Praise shifts focus from problems to the greatness of the divine, and in that shift, joy is ignited. Even when circumstances do not change, praise changes the heart, and joy rises. Many have discovered that in their lowest moments, a song of praise lifted in faith brings joy that carries them through. This is because joy is not bound by circumstance, but released by perspective, and worship is the key that unlocks it. Joy also brings healing. Studies have shown that laughter and joy improve physical health, reducing stress, strengthening the immune system, and even aiding recovery. On a spiritual level, joy heals the heart by lifting burdens and breaking the heaviness of despair. When one allows joy to flow, the body, mind, and spirit align in wholeness. The Spirit uses joy as medicine, a divine remedy that restores vitality and renews strength. This is why guarding joy is essential, not as a trivial pursuit, but as a necessity for health and wholeness. An often overlooked aspect of joy is resilience. Those who carry joy are not immune to pain, but they rise above it. Joy does not prevent storms, but enables one to dance in the rain. It turns trials into testimonies and losses into lessons. With joy, the narrative of life changes. What once looked like defeat becomes a stepping stone, and what once brought tears now carries wisdom. Joy transforms perception, allowing individuals to see beyond the immediate and trust in the greater story unfolding. This resilience makes joy one of the most powerful forces in spiritual life. Joy is also contagious. When one person carries joy, it radiates to others. A joyful presence can lift an entire room, inspire hope in the discouraged, and spark laughter in the weary. This is because joy flows from the Spirit, and when shared, it awakens others to their own source of joy. By living joyfully, one becomes a vessel of encouragement, reminding others that joy is possible even in hardship. In this way, joy is not only personal but communal, spreading light wherever it is carried. Joy is eternal. While happiness fades with time and circumstances, joy is rooted in something beyond this world. It is a foretaste of eternal life, a reminder of what is unshakable. It assures the soul that no matter what happens here, there is a deeper reality of love, presence, and hope that cannot be taken away. Joy anchors the heart in this reality, making it possible to live fully in the present while holding on to the eternal. To live in the Spirit is to embrace joy as both inheritance and practice. It is to allow joy to rise above sorrow, to choose it daily, to cultivate it through gratitude, worship, generosity, and trust. It is to protect it from the thieves of fear, comparison, and negativity. And it is to let it overflow, touching others and transforming environments. Joy is more than a fleeting feeling. It is a divine strategy, a weapon against despair, and a source of strength. It sustains, heals, empowers, and illuminates the path of life. Peace is one of the greatest gifts that the Spirit imparts, and it is not the fragile peace that the world offers, but a deep, unshakable calm that abides even in the midst of storms. Worldly peace is dependent on circumstances, quiet surroundings, the absence of conflict, financial stability, or physical safety, but the peace that flows from divine presence transcends all of these conditions. It is an anchor for the soul, a steadying force that remains when everything external is shaking. This peace is not fragile, but powerful. It does not come from the absence of problems, but from the presence of divine assurance. It is the stillness of the heart that knows it is held, guided, and protected, no matter how fierce the winds of life may blow. Peace begins within the heart, not outside of it. Many spend their lives chasing external conditions to feel at rest, waiting for debts to be cleared, relationships to be mended, or goals to be fulfilled before they allow themselves to experience peace. Yet peace is not found in the completion of these desires, but in the surrender of the heart to divine wisdom. When one releases the need to control everything and trusts in higher guidance, peace arises naturally. It is the fruit of trust, the outcome of faith, and the evidence of alignment with eternal order. This is why true peace cannot be stolen. It is not built on fragile foundations, but on eternal truth. Peace is also a guard. It protects the mind from anxiety, fear, and chaos. When thoughts spiral into worry, peace steps in as a shield. It tells the heart that there is no need to carry tomorrow's burdens today. It whispers that the unseen hand is working behind the scenes, orchestrating all things for good. In this way, peace is both defensive and offensive. It pushes back the noise of fear and fills the inner space with calm assurance. Those who cultivate peace walk through life with clarity. because their vision is not clouded by panic. Decisions made in peace are wiser than those made in haste or fear. Living in peace also transforms relationships. When the heart is at rest, it does not react with anger, impatience, or suspicion. A peaceful person becomes a peacemaker, carrying an atmosphere that diffuses tension and invites harmony. This is why peace is not only a personal gift, but a communal one. Families, communities, and even workplaces are healed when individuals embody peace. Rather than fueling conflict, peace brings resolution. It listens instead of argues, seeks understanding instead of victory, and builds bridges instead of walls. In this way, peace becomes a divine strategy for unity. Peace is closely tied to forgiveness. Many live without peace because they hold on to bitterness, anger, or unresolved pain. These inner weights disturb the calm of the heart and create inner storms that never settle. The Spirit urges forgiveness not merely as a moral duty, but as a pathway to peace. To forgive is to release oneself from the prison of resentment and to open the door for healing to flow. Forgiveness does not deny the wrong, but it chooses freedom over bondage. Once forgiveness is extended, peace returns, like a river flowing where it was once blocked. This is why peace and forgiveness cannot be separated. Another secret of peace is its connection to simplicity. The more cluttered a life becomes with worry, distraction, and unnecessary pursuits, the harder it is to experience peace. Simplicity clears space for peace to thrive. It means learning to rest in what truly matters: love, truth, purpose, and presence, rather than chasing endless desires. The Spirit calls people into a rhythm of rest, reminding them that peace grows in quiet moments, in stillness, in silence. In a world filled with noise and constant demands, choosing simplicity is a radical act that allows peace to flourish. Peace also requires trust and timing. Anxiety often arises when one feels behind, when answers seem delayed, or when outcomes do not arrive according to personal expectations. But peace acknowledges that divine timing is perfect. Just as seasons unfold naturally without force, so does life under spiritual guidance. Trusting this timing allows the heart to rest, even when the way forward is not yet visible. Impatience robs peace, but trust restores it. In this way, peace is sustained by patience and faith in the unseen. The peace of the Spirit is also healing to the body. Just as stress, fear, and anxiety weaken the immune system, peace strengthens it. Calmness regulates breathing, balances the heart rate, and reduces tension. But beyond the physical, peace restores the soul. It quiets the noise of self-condemnation, heals memories of trauma, and creates space for joy to grow. Many underestimate the healing power of peace, but it is one of the greatest medicines given to humanity. To live in peace is to live in wholeness. Peace also brings clarity. When the mind is restless, decisions become clouded and confusion reigns. But when peace reigns, wisdom can flow. Many spiritual leaders and thinkers throughout history sought solitude and stillness because they knew peace was the atmosphere where revelation comes. In the absence of noise, one can hear the still small voice guiding the next step. Without peace, people often rush ahead in fear or retreat in worry. But with peace, they can move forward with steady confidence. Peace allows discernment, guiding choices that align with purpose. Peace is not only for quiet moments but is designed to sustain in chaos. It is easy to feel calm when everything is in order, but divine peace proves its power when nothing seems right. This peace allows one to sleep in the storm, to stand in confidence when others panic, and to smile when others despair. It does not ignore the storm, but rises above it. In this way, peace becomes a testimony, a visible sign of faith that draws others to seek the same source. To live in peace requires practice. It is cultivated daily through prayer, meditation, gratitude, and surrender. Peace is not something that arrives once and remains forever without attention. It must be nurtured like a garden. Negative voices, comparison, and fear try to steal it, but through intentional practices, peace can be guarded. Setting boundaries, choosing stillness, and aligning with divine truth are ways to water the garden of peace. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and peace becomes the default state of being. Peace is eternal. Just as joy is unshakable, peace is unending. It flows from the source of life and cannot be destroyed by the temporary turbulence of this world. Those who anchor themselves in this peace live differently. They walk with steady steps, speak with calm authority, and carry an atmosphere of tranquility wherever they go. Peace becomes not just an inner experience, but a gift to the world. It spreads through presence, tone, and action, reminding others that calm is possible in chaos, and rest is possible in unrest. Peace is both a shield and a song. It is the calm river within, the soft light that warms the heart, the gentle voice that says, "Be still." To embrace this peace is to embrace freedom from fear, release from anxiety, and connection to eternal assurance. It is one of the greatest strategies for life, because it empowers resilience, strengthens faith, and transforms relationships. With peace, one can walk through the valleys of life with confidence, knowing that storms are temporary, but the presence that gives peace is eternal. Hope is one of the most vital strategies for life, for it sustains the heart in times of waiting, strengthens faith when circumstances seem dark, and keeps the spirit alive when everything else feels uncertain. Hope is not mere wishful thinking or vague optimism. It is not built on fantasies or unstable dreams. True hope is rooted in trust that there is a higher plan unfolding, even when the details are hidden. It is the confident expectation that tomorrow holds promise, because the unseen hand of divine wisdom is working all things together for good. Without hope, the human spirit withers. With hope, it soars, no matter how heavy the burden or how long the night. Hope gives strength when energy is gone, in seasons of struggle, when answers are delayed, or when progress feels invisible. Hope whispers to the heart that the story is not over yet. It declares that setbacks are not the end, but stepping stones toward a greater unfolding. Hope revives determination, keeping one moving forward when quitting feels easier. It infuses the will to rise again after falling, to keep believing after disappointment, and to keep sowing seeds even when harvest feels far away. The body may tire, the mind may falter, but when hope fills the soul, there is a renewal of strength that allows one to endure with patience and joy. Hope is also the bridge between present challenges and future fulfillment. It allows one to live fully in the now, while still anticipating the goodness that lies ahead. Hope does not deny the reality of pain or trial, but it insists that these moments are temporary, not permanent. Just as the darkest hour precedes the dawn, hope believes that light is inevitable. This expectation shifts perspective, turning trials into training grounds and delays into seasons of preparation. Those who carry hope interpret hardships differently. They see them not as punishments, but as processes that shape them into vessels ready for greater blessings. Hope also protects the mind from despair. Despair is the absence of hope, the belief that nothing good can emerge from difficulty, and it leads to paralysis of the spirit. But hope keeps despair at bay. It feeds the imagination with possibility, the heart with resilience, and the will with courage. Even in prisons, deserts, or storms, those with hope find reason to keep walking. It is the inner fire that refuses to die, the gentle flame that continues to burn despite winds of adversity. Where despair says, "It's over," hope says, "It has only just begun." Hope is closely tied to vision. Without vision, people wander aimlessly, and without hope, they cannot hold on to vision. Hope gives the courage to dream, to imagine possibilities beyond current limitations, and to believe that what is unseen is more powerful than what is seen. It turns obstacles into opportunities and failures into stepping stones. Vision and hope together allow one to look beyond present struggles toward the life that is waiting to unfold. Hope says that every seed planted in faith will one day bring forth fruit, and vision helps see that harvest even before it arrives. Living in hope also changes how one treats time. Without hope, waiting feels unbearable, but with hope, waiting becomes purposeful. Hope transforms waiting from idle frustration into active anticipation. It fuels perseverance, enabling one to continue building, preparing, and improving while expecting breakthrough. Time does not feel wasted when hope is alive, because every day is seen as one step closer to fulfillment. Hope aligns with divine timing, trusting that delays are not denials, but strategic pauses for preparation and growth. Hope also radiates outward. Just as despair spreads heaviness to those around, hope spreads encouragement. A hopeful person becomes a beacon to others, inspiring courage by example. Hope has a profound connection with gratitude. Gratitude focuses on what is present, while hope looks to what is coming. Together they create balance, thankfulness for today, and anticipation for tomorrow. This balance protects the heart from bitterness and keeps joy alive. Gratitude without hope can become stagnant, while hope without gratitude can become restless. When they work together, they cultivate a heart that rejoices in the now and expects even greater things to come. This creates resilience that no hardship can break. Another truth about hope is that it grows strongest in the darkest seasons. Light is appreciated most in the night, and hope shines brightest when everything seems lost. Many of life's greatest breakthroughs are birthed in moments of deepest despair, when the only thing left to hold on to is hope. It is in these moments that hope transforms from an abstract idea into a lifeline. It becomes the thread that keeps the soul connected to faith, allowing one to move forward even when all evidence suggests otherwise. Hope in the dark is the kind of hope that produces miracles, for it refuses to let go, no matter the circumstances. Hope also requires discipline. It is not always easy to hold on to hope, especially when the wait is long or the obstacles are many. Negative thoughts, fear, and discouragement constantly try to choke hope. That is why nurturing hope is a daily practice. Speaking words of life, surrounding oneself with encouragement, remembering past victories, and meditating on promises are ways to keep hope alive. Just as a fire must be fed to continue burning, hope must be continually guarded and strengthened, or it risks being extinguished by doubt. Living with hope gives meaning to suffering. Without hope, pain feels pointless, but with hope, even the most difficult seasons take on new significance. Hope assures the heart that no tear is wasted, no loss is in vain, and no struggle is without purpose. It transforms suffering into a refining process, where character is built, endurance is developed, and deeper wisdom is gained. Hope allows people to walk through valleys with courage, because they believe that beauty will rise from ashes and joy will come after mourning. Hope also brings joy into the present. It allows one to smile even before the answer comes, to sing even before the victory arrives, and to rejoice even in the midst of trial. This joy is not based on outcomes, but on expectation. It says, "I may not see it yet, but I know it is on the way." Hope fuels celebration before fulfillment, which in turn strengthens the heart to endure the journey until the manifestation arrives. In this way, hope not only prepares for the future, but enriches the present moment. Hope is eternal. Unlike temporary solutions, hope does not die with unmet expectations or changing seasons. It points beyond the temporary struggles of this life to a reality that is greater and unshakable. Hope assures that the future is secure, that ultimate good is achievable, and that the story of life is moving toward fulfillment, not despair. Those who anchor themselves in this hope can face trials without fear, because they know that the end is victory. Hope is not fragile. It is a divine strategy for survival, growth, and triumph. Peace is one of the most profound strategies for living a victorious and abundant life, because it centers the mind, anchors the heart, and creates space for divine wisdom to guide decisions. Peace is not simply the absence of conflict or noise. It is an inner stillness that remains unshaken even when storms rage around. It is the state of being where the heart is not pulled apart by worry, fear, or anxiety, but rests in confidence that all is well, even if circumstances have not yet aligned. This kind of peace does not depend on outward conditions, but springs from within, sustained by trust in a higher order and assurance that one is guided, provided for, and protected. Peace gives clarity. When the mind is restless, full of fear or turmoil, it becomes clouded, and decisions are often rushed, reactive, or unwise. But when the soul is at peace, wisdom can flow freely. Solutions appear that were previously hidden, inspiration arises without force, and choices are made from a place of calm strength rather than desperation. This is why peace is essential before taking steps in life's important. In silence and stillness, the inner voice becomes louder, and direction becomes clear. Many doors that remain shut in chaos swing open when approached with the serenity of peace. Peace is also protection. Anxiety and fear wear down the body, weaken the immune system, and rob energy from daily living. Constant worry depletes strength and creates unnecessary suffering long before any actual problem arrives. Peace shields the heart and mind from these drains. It is like armor against the assaults of negativity, keeping the soul guarded and the body strengthened. Those who cultivate peace can face challenges without being consumed by them. The storm may rage outside, but within, there is calm that allows one to stand firm. This inner stability makes it possible to endure trials without breaking. Living in peace also transforms relationships. Conflict often arises when hearts are restless and minds are unsettled. A person who carries peace within themselves diffuses tension and becomes a calming presence for others. Peaceful words disarm anger, gentle responses dissolve hostility, and a calm spirit shifts the atmosphere of entire homes or communities. When peace governs the heart, it becomes difficult to hold on to grudges, bitterness, or resentment. Forgiveness flows more easily, compassion rises naturally, and love finds its way even into strained connections. Thus, peace is not only personal, but communal. It spreads outward, healing divisions and fostering harmony. Peace is also deeply tied to strength. Many equate peace with weakness, but true peace is power under control. It is the ability to remain unshaken when provoked, to stay steady when pressured, and to refuse to surrender to fear. A peaceful person is not passive, but poised. Their decisions are deliberate, their actions steady, and their energy preserved for what truly matters. Anger and panic waste strength, but peace channels it. In the quiet strength of peace, there is an unshakable resilience that no opposition can conquer. Another truth about peace is that it cannot be forced by external means. Many attempt to buy peace through material possessions, achievements, or controlled environments, but true peace cannot be purchased or manipulated. It is cultivated within. It requires releasing the need to control every detail of life, and instead, trusting that unseen order is at work. This surrender allows burdens to lift, worries to dissolve, and rest to settle in the heart. Peace grows when one learns to let go of what cannot be changed, and to focus instead on what can be aligned within. Peace also brings creativity. A restless mind struggles to birth new ideas, but a peaceful mind flows effortlessly with inspiration. In calmness, imagination is awakened, and innovation becomes possible. Many breakthroughs in art, science, and personal growth have come not from frantic striving, but from moments of stillness and quiet reflection. Peace allows the subconscious to work, connections to form, and insights to arise naturally. This is why taking time for silence, rest, and inner stillness is not wasted. It is the fertile soil where ideas bloom. Peace aligns with patience. Those who live with peace do not rush ahead anxiously, nor lag behind in fear. They walk in rhythm with divine timing. They understand that life unfolds in seasons, and every season has its purpose. Peace enables waiting without frustration, trusting that what is meant to arrive will come at the right moment. This kind of patience prevents burnout, for it keeps the soul from striving against the flow of time. In peace, one can embrace the present moment fully, while anticipating the future without worry. Peace also heals. Just as turmoil and stress create physical and emotional wounds, peace restores. It calms the nervous system, lowers tension, and brings balance to the body and mind. Emotional scars begin to mend when nurtured by peace. Forgiveness becomes easier, grief becomes lighter, and the heart begins to feel whole again. Healing does not come from relentless activity but from rest. Peace allows the inner being to recover, to release pain, and to receive restoration. It is a gentle but powerful medicine that works deeply within. Living in peace also fosters discernment. In chaos, voices of fear, doubt, and confusion compete for attention, making it hard to distinguish truth from deception. But in peace, the inner compass becomes sharp. It becomes clear what to embrace and what to avoid, when to act and when to wait. Discernment thrives in stillness, where wisdom is not drowned out by noise. Those who cultivate peace rarely make hasty mistakes, for they listen first, act later, and walk steadily in the direction of clarity. Peace is also a shield for joy. Without peace, joy is fleeting, stolen easily by circumstances or emotions. But when peace is rooted in the heart, joy remains unshaken, because it is not dependent on external events. Peace allows joy to flow even in trials, because it holds the conviction that everything will work together for good. This stability makes joy durable, not fragile. Peace preserves the lightness of spirit that allows laughter in hardship and gratitude in struggle. Another important aspect of peace is that it fosters alignment with purpose. A restless soul often chases after every opportunity, fearful of missing out. But a peaceful soul moves with focus. They are not driven by competition, comparison, or desperation. They know what aligns with their path and what does not. Peace removes distractions, allowing one to pursue only what matters most. It simplifies life, removes unnecessary clutter, and aligns actions with purpose. In this way, peace creates success not through frenzy but through focus. Peace requires intentional practice. It does not simply appear by chance. It is built through daily habits of stillness, gratitude, and trust. Guarding thoughts, choosing what influences to allow in, creating time for quiet reflection, and letting go of unnecessary conflicts are all practices that protect peace. It is a treasure that must be nurtured and guarded, for the world constantly seeks to steal it through fear, noise, and chaos. Those who value peace must fight to preserve it, not through aggression, but through discipline and awareness. Peace is a divine gift and a strategy that enables abundant living. It provides clarity, strength, protection, healing, and wisdom. It transforms relationships, inspires creativity, and preserves joy. It empowers patience, cultivates focus, and strengthens the heart to endure life's challenges. Peace is not a fragile silence that can be broken by circumstances, but a powerful stillness that endures through every storm. It is the quiet assurance that no matter what happens outside, within there is calm, and from that calm flows the strength to face anything with grace. Joy is a divine strategy for life, because it is more than a fleeting emotion. It is a spiritual force that strengthens, uplifts, and empowers. Joy is not dependent on external circumstances or momentary pleasures. It flows from within, anchored in trust, gratitude, and the awareness of divine goodness. Unlike happiness, which often rises and falls with situations, joy is enduring and resilient. It shines brightest not in the absence of challenges, but in the midst of them, giving the soul courage to keep pressing forward. When cultivated, joy becomes a shield against despair, a light in dark places, and a source of energy that makes even the hardest journeys lighter. Joy carries power because it renews strength. A weary heart becomes burdened and struggles to move forward, but when infused with joy, energy is restored. Joy invigorates the body, awakens the mind, and motivates the spirit. It provides a burst of resilience that worry, fear, or sadness cannot provide. This is why even in the midst of trials, choosing to rejoice can change the entire atmosphere of life. Joy shifts focus from what is lacking to what is abundant, from fear of what might go wrong to gratitude for what is already right. This perspective itself is empowering because it lifts the heart above the weight of circumstances. Another truth about joy is that it is contagious. A joyful person lights up the environment around them, influencing others in ways they may never fully realize. Joyful words can uplift the weary, joyful laughter can dissolve tension, and joyful presence can inspire hope in those who feel defeated. When joy radiates outward, it becomes a healing balm to communities, families, and friendships. It spreads like a fire that warms hearts, drawing people out of heaviness and reminding them that life still holds beauty and promise. By carrying joy, one does not only live abundantly, but also becomes a channel for others to experience abundance. Joy also transforms perspective. Where fear sees impossibility, joy sees opportunity. Where despair sees the end, joy sees a new beginning. Joy sharpens vision so that even in difficulty, one can see beyond the present moment to the promise of better days. This is why joy is not naive. It is not about ignoring reality.